I read Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. The main character doesn't really have much of a character, though in the film he's known as Paul Varjak, but in the book he isn't even given a name at all. He's a writer of short stories. Normally this emptiness would be a net negative, but it feels intentional as a way of drawing you into the story. This narrator is also friendly with a bartender named Joe Bell. The most memorable character is Holly Golightly. She's a thin 19-year-old girl who wears dark glasses and has a variety of colors in her hair and eyes. She often forgets her keys, rubs her nose when people snoop into her past, and thinks that Tiffany's jewelry is the most calming place she can imagine. Holly uses foreign expressions, plays the guitar, and owns a cat that she never named. Some people describe her as a phony, but she might believe her own lies. They live in the same building as Mr. Yanoshi and Madame Sophia Spinella. Holly is aided by a talent agent named O.J. Berman and makes a weekly visit to a mob boss, Sally Tomato, in prison. She has a few friends at her parties, including Rusty Trawler. He's a millionaire who's been divorced 3 times. In the film, he's portrayed as unattractive, but in the book, he's described more as baby-faced and gay. There's also Mag Wildwood, a stammering model who briefly lives with Holly and marries Rusty. And there's also Jose Ibarra Jaeger, a handsome Brazilian politician. I give the characters 10 out of 10. The novel begins with the narrator and the bartender examining a photograph of an African's carving of Holly's head. This isn't really explained later on, but it does set her up as a mysterious globe-trotting woman. In the film, the narrator has a love interest, though in the book he does not. Holly barges in through the narrator's window and starts to call him Fred after her brother in the army. Mag moves in with Holly and they talk on the fire escape. The narrator and Holly do steal some Halloween masks, though it occurs much later in the film. Holly, Rusty, Mag, and Jose make a trip to Brazil. Upon their return, Holly and the narrator exchange gifts. Holly gives the narrator a birdcage, and the narrator gives her a St. Christopher medallion. They have an argument over the quality of the narrator's work, and they stop speaking to each other. Doc Golightly appears outside their apartment. He explains that Holly's real name is Lula Mae Barnes, and that she was a 14-year-old child bride back in Texas and that she ran off. Doc hopes that the narrator will be his friend and help explain to Holly that he's arrived. I think the movie actually does it better here by drawing out a heart-wrenching departure scene. Rusty is engaged, but it's to Mag. The film adds a few scenes where the narrator and Holly frolic around, visit Tiffany's and the jewelry store and kiss, but none of this is in the book. Holly receives a telegram informing her of her brother Fred's death, and she destroys her own apartment. Jose moves in with Holly, and Holly tries to learn to speak Portuguese and to cook, and she plans to move with him to Brazil and to be his wife. Holly is arrested on suspicion of drug smuggling. Jose skips town and leaves a letter breaking up with her, but she still plans to go to Brazil. The narrator brings all her belongings to Joe's bar. They get in a limo and she throws her cat out into the street, and the narrator calls her a bitch. The book is more cheerful as they end up confessing their love and share a kiss. But in the book, Holly does run off to Brazil, and the narrator rescues her cat. I give the plot a 7 out of 10. The language is more edgy in the book. It makes a lot of unflattering remarks about lesbians and blacks. And the movie seems much more wholesome. My favorite line is on page 53. One could see that Holly had a launch problem. The room was strewn like a girls' gymnasium. This is a novel about falling in love with a flighty woman. Holly has 5 different relationships, but they all feel kind of similar. If I were rewriting this novel, I would try to make each relationship feel distinct. After some reflection, I prefer the movie to the book. The movie has a better structure and it has a happy ending. And the iconic images of the film make it seem even more bright. I give this book a 9 out of 10.